Hello and welcome back to Thoughts Per Episode, Doctor Who edition. Today we're talking about The Legend of Ruby Sunday, the first part of a two-parter for the finale of Season 1. I of course watched this when it first aired last night at midnight, UK time, and I just about exploded with thoughts and opinions and theories, and so I made myself write them down as notes and leave it till the morning when I would be more coherent. So, this episode was basically one great big build-up to the shock reveal that everyone had kind of been expecting. Not specifically the reveal it turned out to be, but the fact that there would be a shock reveal in terms of Susan Twist's character and her identity, and potentially a few other things as well, since the subject matter of this episode was confronting who the hell is Ruby's mother? And there have been so many theories flying around. And of course, the one that turned out to be correct was Sutekh, a, kind of a supernatural, godlike being from the classic era of Doctor Who, from the Tom Baker story, The Pyramids of Mars, which is very important to stress, I have never seen. I've heard of the Pyramids of Mars serial, and I think I've probably seen images of Sutekh before in passing. That's about it. I feel like I should let you all know that before we get into my thoughts and theories, because this will be coming from the perspective of a viewer who hasn't seen Pyramids of Mars, and I think that's hopefully important. But yeah, as far as the episode, I guess the premise of the structure of this episode being we're just going to keep building and building and building and adding more mystery and holding the tension and keeping the suspense and having the viewers guessing and guessing and guessing, that worked really well on me. I actually really enjoyed that. I was sucked in, I was gripped, I was on the edge of my seat. I kept re-evaluating the different theories and my own theories and thinking, wait, but this person could secretly be that person. Doctor Who lore and the things you can expect from Doctor Who plot twists has become so messy in terms of like, oh, you've got the fob watches and you've got people having their memories wiped and secretly turning out to be previous incarnations of himself that they didn't know existed, that literally at this point anything could happen. Like the fact that they made a point of Ruby's adoptive mother not being allowed into Unit's HQ because of a high security. The doctor was like, no, obviously, let her in, she's fine. I thought, like, that could still be something. That's a weird thing to put in there if you're not going to make the Doctor regret it later. And why would the Doctor regret it later? Maybe Ruby's adoptive mother has a secret identity. So that's literally the direction my brain was going in this entire episode. Of course, later on during the big reveal, she does call the swirling mass of darkness surrounding the TARDIS in the time window the Beast. And given what I'm about to talk about later, it could just be because she's a religious woman. I don't know if she is, but maybe she is, and she's just, citing that this scary dark cloud of red malice is clearly the devil. And it could be nothing more than that, but it could also be something more, and we'll get to that in a bit. I'm going to leave my theories till the end. I'm going to try and stick to what actually happened in the episode and my thoughts on that as we go. So yeah, I was a little surprised that the Sutekh theory turned out to be true. Not disappointed though. I love returning villains from classic Who that I know nothing about. That's always exciting to me. That being said, hinging an entire twist on trying to work out what the suspicious lady was an anagram of, I thought was a little fourth wall breaky, because in the show it's usually a lot more, well, to be fair, it's not a lot more complicated than that. And to be fair, the Doctor reacting to suspicious things in this kind of a way is almost warranted because of how often he's been tripped up by anagrams and cheeky name changes in the past as revelations for terrible people returning. So you could argue there's an in-universe reason for the Doctor to go chasing anagrams, but it did feel a little like, okay, that's what we, the fan base, do. In-universe, I would expect there to be a little bit more evidence to support a suspicious character. And of course the twist was, oh, it's not the anagram we worked out easily at the start of the episode, it's a different anagram. I actually really like Ncuti's delivery of, it's the wrong anagram. I didn't do it justice at all. The one I did roll my eyes at, though, was Harriet Arbinger. Come on now. Do we really need to be doing that? Especially when there was no kind of... I don't know. I'm trying to remember now. When, in the giggle, maybe I need to go back and rewatch it, when the Toymaker showed up, did he also have a Harbinger whose name was like H. Arbinger or something? Because if so, I'm a little bit less mad. But it was such like a... You only ever told us her first name, and it's a very dopey way of, revealing that this character is secretly evil. I didn't like that reveal. I thought that was a silly reveal. That being said, the actor is knocking that out of the park. But yeah, in terms of a general Susan twist mystery and how that's built up over the season and whether I think that's delivered in this episode, yeah, I absolutely think it has. It was fun. Now, in Unleashed, they're talking about, like, oh, did you notice Susan Twist? At what point in the season did you notice her character recurring? I've got to say, unfortunately, I follow people on Twitter and they quite quickly pointed it out around the time of the, episode 2. But yeah, in the episode of Unleashed as well, Russell T Davies talks about the idea of a meta-narrative and the internet kind of, coming up with theories and how that leads into the narrative itself, and yeah, I felt it was just generally quite cool. So the time window. I think it's interesting that we're giving humans in 2024 the ability to have some kind of time travel-y technology. I guess it makes sense given how much of a presence the Doctor has on Earth and has had for the last 60 years, and the fact that UNIT has known that time travel is possible and therefore they can kind of point their scientists' theories in the right direction and maybe speed that up a bit. But I got the same vibes that I did in Avengers Endgame, where I was like, oh, we think we can do that with our level of technology, huh? Okay, what ramifications does that have for the future of this universe? But still, honestly, when I was thinking about the problem of the Doctor being unable to revisit the church on Ruby Road that night and find out who Ruby's mother is, I was kind of thinking, like, well, why doesn't he just use someone else's time machine? And that could be fun, but also that wouldn't solve the problem of him crossing his own timeline, so bad theory me. But yeah, the time window thing was cool. They got to mess with the idea of, the eeriness of a ghost within the VHS tape, if you know what I mean. When that soldier was going around the back of a TARDIS, I knew he wasn't coming back. I was like, oh, that's straight up. I've watched enough RTD, Doctor Who. That man ain't coming back. Also, I really liked the eeriness of the Doctor realizing, oh, a time window into a TARDIS, a time machine, how's that going to interact with each other? That might be a bad idea, actually. I also saw someone point out that the CCTV, Ruby mentioned it was 63 meters away, or 64, or 60, I don't remember the number, but it translates to 73 yards. I don't know if that's going to be an Easter egg, or if that's going to be important. Given that Ruby was the woman watching herself from 73 yards away originally, what if the same thing is happening here, and it is a future version of Ruby delivering baby Ruby to the church on Ruby Road? That was a lot of a word, Ruby. Ruby, 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 Ruby. I also have some more crackpot tinfoil hat theories about this entire encounter, so wait till the end to hear some more of that. But yeah, that entire time window scene was so tense. I loved every second of it. Thing is, I don't know how much it'll hold up on rewatchings, because whenever you watch something with foreknowledge of what is to come, you watch it with a new perspective, and that's a lot of building tension of oh, what is it? What's it going to be? What's happening? We don't know the answers. When we do know the answers, watching that back later, is it going to hold up? I have questions. I love the look of scorn Kate gives the Doctor for dooming her unit soldier, because she didn't want him to go investigating and the Doctor did because of his curiosity. And I think this is such a juxtaposition between the previous scene when the Doctor is talking about Susan, his granddaughter, to Kate, and he says he doesn't want to go and visit her because he always brings disaster wherever he goes, or whatever he said. And Kate says, I think you bring joy. And I think the tragedy of that scene is that both are true, and the juxtaposition of that scene with this scene where Kate is giving him a scornful look kind of reaffirms the Doctor's own belief that he does bring disaster wherever he comes, and now he's shown Kate that. At this point, by the way, I really want a unit spin-off series. I feel like it's a shame they're always kind of there to be ineffective against whatever the Doctor is going up against, so that when the Doctor is effective against them, he looks more impressive. It'd be nice to have a spin-off series where the Doctor isn't around and we could just focus on them being effective. I mean, they're effective as a helping hand. We've got Mel, I love Mel, Mad Auntie Mel, investigating Susan Triad and giving info, but still, you know what I mean, in terms of when the threat is actually here, all they can do is shoot bullets at it and the bullets never work. But yeah, when the Doctor gets angry about losing that man and being responsible for losing that unit soldier, who was very charming and who Ruby definitely had a crush on, he stops in the middle of a Susan Triad corridor and starts beating up a lift door. And I love Mel just stopping and looking at him and being like, are you done? I want to see more of Mel. She's fantastic. And I love how she's this computer whiz and stuff, because apparently when she was in the Seventh Doctor's show, she was very much portrayed as being the opposite of as being ditzy. And it's nice to kind of see this version of her, which is, I don't know, clearly like been worked on to fit in with modern day Doctor Who a bit more. Now, of course, Susan Triad's name being Susan Triad was bait because we heard about the Doctor's granddaughter earlier this season, and he's talking about her now because Susan, that woman, that Susan Twist woman, who's been popping up everywhere, is showing up in modern day Earth as Susan. And for some reason, the Doctor's going, Susan? My granddaughter's called Susan, as if he's never met another woman called Susan in his life. We might have got a bit Batman versus Superman there, but I'm sure we can get through it. Again, that kind of plays into the episode's meta-narrative as like, this is what the fans are going to speculate about, and when that translates to the reality of the events taking place within the narrative, within the universe, I don't think it necessarily holds up as making as much sense, but it's fine. And so the idea is that Sutekh is using Susan's name as a trap for the Doctor, but I don't know if Sutekh ever met Susan or ever knew about Susan, or if it's just a coincidence. But all of this discussion around Susan and all of this faking out about her, and the way Russell T Davies talked about her in Unleashed as well, talking about how that's an element of Doctor Who's history which hasn't really been touched on since the 20th anniversary, outside of Big Finish specials. Come on, Russell, please mention them. All of this stuff still has me pretty convinced that we're going to be seeing Susan at some point in the future. Hey, you know how that girl in Boom is going to be one of the Doctor's companions in season 2, but she's not playing the same character? What if Susan's been following the Doctor around, just barely missing him at each location, and met that character and had the same kind of like memory imprint thing with her next regeneration that the Doctor did in his 12th incarnation regarding that Roman dude? Damn it, I said I wasn't going to get into theories until later, but that's not what I have written down. That's just one that just came to me, which is, I don't think it's true. I don't think that's real. Speaking of theories that I have mentioned before, though, we did get confirmation on my theory that Susan's parents are children the Doctor hasn't had yet. He alluded to this in The Devil's Cord, but he didn't confirm it. He outright confirmed it in this episode, which I think is fantastic and exciting and very on brand for the show. It does also open the door for some really dark storytelling if RTD wants to go down the route of, oh, actually, Doctor, you never did have kids, you just believed a trick. Susan was one of the trickster's tricks. She was never real. I don't think we're going to do that, though. But the trickster did get confirmed to be an entity in this universe. Or I guess, like, one of a pantheon or whatever that we're doing at the minute. Anyway, the reason I like this whole thing about Susan's parents haven't, or parent, I keep saying parents, that would be very incestuous. Susan's parent by the Doctor has not been born yet. I like that because I think it means River Song could still be involved, and how cool would it be if Susan's grandmother was River Song? That would tie different eras of the show back into itself in a really fun way. I know River's story is basically done, but also it's not, though. It's never really basically fully done, is it? I mean, Big Finish just broke her out of her afterlife, her digital afterlife, so I don't know if... I really wish I had more information on, like, how Big Finish and BBC kind of like discuss the canon of Doctor Who and whether they work together or not, or whether Big Finish does things and Russell T Davies goes, oh Christ. The last thing before we get too into Theory Town is Mrs. Flood. She immediately breaks the fourth wall a second time to tell us that the one who waits no longer, which is in regards, we can assume, to Sutekh. So I guess we've got some confirmation there that Mrs. Flood has some relation to this pantheon of gods. People are going, oh, she could be the Rani, she could be the Master, she could be. I think it's probable that she's actually one of a pantheon of gods, like one of these lesser gods that was mentioned during Harbinger's spiel. I always say that word wrong. Harbinger's spiel about like the different gods and stuff. She could be like a god of mischief or something. She could also be Ruby's mum. That's one random theory I had. I went, oh, for God's sake, she's Ruby's mum, isn't she? She's just been there the whole time, and she's actually secretly a horrible person in a supernatural event. And, you know, if Sutekh is the father of all the gods, they also mentioned the mother and the other of all the gods. Maybe Mrs. Flood is the mother of all the gods, but that's just getting into wild speculation. There's no actual basis for any of these theories. I just hope that Ruby's adoptive grandmother will be okay. Okay, so now for questions that I still have / some observations I've made. So I'm just going to read you the notes I've got here. What links Sutekh to the TARDIS? When did he possess it? If Sutekh is connected to the Pantheon, why did he exist pre-Wild Blue yonder? What's the deal with Sutekh, the badass fucking demon dog, and Sutekh the Susan Tech? Is Susan Tech a simulacrum of some sort, or a TARDIS projection made sentient? How does Ruby's parentage fit into this? If Sutekh is the father of all the gods, is Ruby's mother the mum? That kind of gets into the the Mrs. Flood thing I just mentioned, sorry. Too many names, too many nouns. What was Ruby's mum pointing at? Probably Sutekh, right? We got that answer within the episode. She's probably pointing at the TARDIS, trying to warn about Sutekh. And then finally, Susan Tech, Susan mentioned seeing orange skies in her travels, in her memories, which is a clear reference to Gallifrey, which I find very interesting. I think that's one of those seeds Russell has sown that's going to be picked up on later. So anyway, some of these questions lead into theories I then came up with later on, so I've promised it long enough, let's get into Theory Town. Here's the one I am most confident in. The Beast from the Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit is Sutekh. They are one and the same entity. I was talking with some people about how the lead up to the Sutekh reveal was giving me big, like, Impossible Planet vibes, and I wasn't the only one. Everyone was like, oh yeah, I got that too, in my replies and stuff. And at first I thought it was just a fun coincidence, but the more I think about it, the more I think it's quite obvious, actually, that the Beast and Sutekh are meant to be one and the same. Maybe not when the Beast was first conceived of, back in Season 2, or Series 2, I should say, of New Doctor Who, but I think retroactively, Russell is trying to make them be one and the same. Now, again, I don't know a huge amount about Sutekh beyond what we saw today, but I know that he's meant to be the god of death. He's meant to be... actually, you know what? I'm going to read you H. Arbinger's... some of her spiel. And his names are many. His name has been Set, and Seth, and Sifitha, and his one true name forevermore is Sutekh. And I'm reminded of that line when, I think the character's called Toby in The Impossible Planet, when he's about to be possessed. Interesting possession happens here as well. When he's about to be possessed by the Beast. And he's asking over his shoulder, he's like, don't turn around. Do you remember that scene? And he's going, who are you? And he goes, I have so many names. I think, you know, that adds up. In terms of casting, he has the same voice actor. He was originally Sutekh, and then he voiced the Beast, and now he's Sutekh again. He has a thing about making writings appear where they're not supposed to be, like on Toby's hands and the walls, and then when we get to this episode, on the teleprompt screen, he is returning and all that good stuff. The music, which I'm going to get into in my more crackpot style theory, gives off the same vibes as the Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit. And when you think about it, the Impossible Planet was doomed into a black hole, as was Toby, who had the Beast's mind and he was being possessed by the Beast. They were both doomed into a black hole to save the universe from whatever the Beast is, which is very much meant to be like Satan. And then the Doctor in Wild Blue Yonder takes the TARDIS outside the universe, which is where a black hole might lead in a sci-fi show. So it stands to reason that maybe the Beast was, the consciousness of the Beast at least, as maybe a not thing, was waiting for him outside the universe, and therefore possessed the TARDIS to get back to the universe and has been lying in wait since then. I'm really confident in this theory, especially given some of Harriet's monologue, as she's kind of like taking on the voice of Sutekh, and Sutekh saying like, the Doctor, you know, so naive, he didn't even know I was here, he didn't even know that he picked me up on his travels. He doesn't say those exact words, I should probably find them. He has hidden within the howling void, he has hidden within the tempest. He has braved the storm and the darkness and the pain, and he whispered to the vessel. All this time he whispered and delighted and seduced, and the vessel did obey. For none should be more mighty, and none should be more wise than the king himself. And the Lord of Time was blind and vain and knew nothing. And then on the screen, I am the loss, I am the never, I am the night, I am the terror, I am returning. There is the Toymaker, the god of games. There is the Trickster, the god of traps. I'm reading the full thing because it kind of gets lost in undertone with other stuff going on. There is Maestro, the god of music. There is Reprobate, the god of spite. There is Vamara, the god of beasts. And the threefold deity of malice and mischief and misery. There are gods of skin and shame and secrets. There is Incensor, the god of disaster. I kind of think that could be Mrs. Flood. and her children called Doubt and Dread. And standing on high is the mother and father and other of them all. For the god of all gods has returned, and his names are many. His name has been Set and Seth and Siphifer, and his one true name for evermore is Sutekh. I already told you that part. Wait, shit, I hope I didn't just summon him. Anyway, yeah, maybe you could just argue that it's because they both have, like, satanic imagery and stuff, but I think it's pretty clear to me that the Beast and Sutekh are the same thing. I don't know if they'll ever be important or relevant in the show, or if it'll just remain my headcanon, but I'm pretty certain about this. The one I'm less certain about, if we want to start getting tinfoily, it has to do with the music and the soundtrack. And when the big reveal was winding up, you might have heard and you know what? We've heard that before in Doctor Who, because that's been used for the Master, and I'm not saying that this has much to do with the Master. But, you know, for a second I was like, wait, is this a reveal for the Master? Surely we're not doing the Master yet again. He's been a bit overused in recent years, as amazing as he or she has been every time. And ultimately, I think what this probably just is Murray Gold utilising that kind of motif for a big scary reveal is coming. Hey, Future Christian jumping in here. I have now read that this was originally used for the Beast's reveal and then was retrofitted for the Master later on, but I'm gonna let myself keep cooking because I think I have some fun discussion around themes here. But yeah, as if we needed another nail in the coffin for the Beast equals Sutekh. But it did make me think a little bit, you know, like the last time this was really used was when the Saxon Master was returning through the dark and all this stuff, and that's got very similar language to, you know, Sutekh, he is returning. And that was at the end of time in David Tennant, the 10th Doctor's last story. And with that resurrection, the Master was very much the embodiment of death, you know, like he always hungered, he was using up his life force to stay alive, so you could say he was kind of like embodying death in that sense. You know, he literally took on the image of death when he would laugh and become a skull. I don't know, I think I'm probably grasping at straws here, but I feel like there could be some connection there in terms of just motif and theme. And yeah, just the language that the Ood used to talk about in that episode, to talk about the Master's return. He is returning, a great thing is stirring in the dark. I started to think, like, what if they weren't trying to warn the Doctor about the threat of the Master and the returning Time Lords? What if it was something more to do with the Beast and stuff? But like I say, I think I'm just grasping at straws there. I just want to throw it out there in case I turn out to be right. And my final theory, my most wild and out there theory, doesn't concern Sutekh, it concerns Ruby's mother. The fact that when she's walking past in the time window, she appears to just scoot on by. And they can't figure out why. No one can see inside of her hood, no one can perceive her. And that got me thinking about a race of creatures, or I don't know if it was even a race, but like a cult of people within the Doctor Who universe who, you know, can't be perceived for some reason. You know why? Because when you see them, you forget you've seen them the second you look away. I'm talking about the silence. What if Russell T Davies is employing the use of a silence here, or at least the silence's technology or whatever they use to wipe people's memory of seeing them every time they look at them. I'm not saying that Ruby's mother is one of those weird silence alien creatures, but maybe she's part of a Church of the Silence for some reason. I don't know, because that would tie back to the name of the Doctor, and that plotline is very much done with. But it got me thinking about perception filters, and like maybe this is some kind of perception filter technology, and it got me thinking about 73 Yards, which I think we are going to tie back into in regards to Ruby's story. And some of the theories around 73 Yards is, it happened because a perception filter landed on a perception filter. So what if Ruby is another layer of this perception filter, of her birth mother has some perception filter based around her for some reason? I don't know, it's a very half-baked theory, but I feel like all the pieces are starting to fall into place. This theory came to me last night when I was just trying to get to sleep, and I couldn't stop thinking about the episode, and I thought about the silence, and I thought about that scene where Ruby's mother just kind of glitches past everyone and they don't see her, and my eyes shot wide open. I went, they did see her, they just don't remember. So yeah, as you can see, I'm absolutely enamoured with the first half of this finale. I hope the second half sticks the landing. I think there's more twists to come. I think Susan may still be involved in some way, although maybe that's just copium. So let me know what you thought down in the comments down below. Let me know if I'm just completely off my head in terms of theories, if I missed anything obvious, if you agree with me. Like the video if you liked it, I guess, and I will see you in whatever I make next. Oh, and here's a blooper. And standing on high is the mother and father. What? Yeah, okay, I really said that. That really came out of my mouth. Anyway, see you next time.